perhaps actually seal the cavern before we repaired Proud Fort, but...
That would make sense.
Yeah.
To solve the local problems, I'm sure the people would agree. The Proud Fort would take quite a long time, even if we could make it a stronghold and move people there. I imagine that some would perhaps come to such an area, and beginning to do further agriculture in that area, or restoring it to a productive part of society, would be good, especially with the potential continuation of the food crisis. We have sent food to Newport, but we are simply curing the symptom, not the cause.
Indeed so, but with the following harvest, perhaps this will be less of a problem in the future.
The harvest will not get any better if both the Frostfist and the Grindworm still.
Indeed. Which is why we should head there right away.
You folks are still technically in low summer. There's 16 months in our calendar of the Dragon Empire, and it is worth noting that it is cooler than it has been in prior summers. Although it is still very warm and, comfy around the Midland Sea, it's not as hot as it used to be.
Potentially also something of a long-term goal could be to help spread the influence of the High Druid amongst the peoples of the area. The powers of the Druids are well known, even if we do not encounter them in the Queen's Wood. Their skills at taming or aiding the land to strengthen its natural vigor could do much good for the farmers. Then again, I have had little to do with druids in my time.
I haven't met that many either, sadly. Dwarf knew a bit about them, but he wasn't really a friend to them, I wouldn't say.
It would also seem that he is not available, as of now, to aid in such an endeavor.
No, certainly not.
Regardless, it seems that we are at somewhat of a point of haste. Moving to Newport with our forces would then be something to suggest. If this Frostfist, do you believe that we would be necessary in order to lead this battle, or should our forces as they are be capable of doing it alone?
Our forces should be able to handle it. It would be preferable for us to be there to deal with the Frostfist once and for all, because I don't believe our armies could deal with him personally, but they could certainly destroy his armies, and that would force him to flee.
Our purpose here is we need to save the city, and ourselves we have lots we need to be doing.
Mechanically speaking, not going yourselves at all would, and the NPC armies do meet the minimum requirements. That would basically be putting them up to their judgment and intelligence for how they would resolve a situation, which, as we have always proven in tabletop games, is always worse than that of the player characters. They will do worse at it than you would, even if you were just there leading them.
They probably also would like to have a lot of arguments over who should lead the united group.
They will certainly have their different opinions on how to break the siege.
As long as they don't join the Frostfist.
You can count on that not happening.
We should just appoint an overall commander before we set them out.
Perhaps I am colored by my prior knowledge, but I do believe armies work best when under a commander, especially one that they have all accepted in the past. Our armies are united because of us, not because of each other.
The problem here is that none of these groups, except for the garrison, does really much in the whole chain of command from an army standpoint. The mages don't really do this thing. The battle clerics, they can do this thing, but it's not a priority of theirs. It's only really the Imperial garrison that follows a strict hierarchy and does battlefield stuff. And the engineers, if you want to say that, but they'd be fucked really
fight,
fast.
Right?
They can technically fight, yes.
It's like ballistae and stuff like that.
They don't have those, no.
Yeah,
they'd have to build those.
Need to assemble them.
Yes.
Yeah, and that we don't really have time to do that.
They would have to assemble the siege weapons next to the group that has the siege weapons. Or assemble them and then cart them somewhere.
Yeah.
Going
That
with
will
the
take a
army
lot of
seems
time.
to be the
If you can't
best
like buy
choice.
siege equipment in Newport.
But if I am not as skilled in this area, and I have not encountered this Frostfest before, so I will defer to your expertise in the matter.
Fighting is what armies are being paid for, is it not? I do not see why we need to babysit them when they have a simple task as breaking a siege.
You can technically, you can certainly appoint a leader that you want to have for their particular groups, in which case they'll end up pursuing whatever strategy that leader thinks best. And you better believe each of them has a different opinion on the matter.
Yeah.
If you guys went there yourselves, you'd get to listen to the opinions. And then make a decision.
I'd rather save time and do something else in the meantime.
Yes, although breaking a siege is not that simple, really. There is a lot of problems with it. And
Depends on how many casualties you're willing to assume. If there is no united leader, I cannot imagine that all of our people are gonna come home alive.
I can guarantee that you're going to lose at least one group. The only way for you to avoid losing a group at all would be to go there personally and find a way to do it without using the armies.
yeah.
What does Jasmine think about this?
Jasmine has been considering for this. Well, most certainly, Frostfist needs to be gotten rid of. Though it does definitely seem that the best method might be to, well, go over there and try and aid them ourselves.
I believe it is something that is rather important as well.
Most of us have seen the Frostfist before. Anyone in our armies are not going to take him on.
From the sounds of it, most of these actual soldiers are not soldiers at all, but more bandits and riffraff from different groups that have gathered together for greater spoils. That would mean potentially that taking out the leaders would disrupt whatever meager chain of command they might have.
Yes, I feel the best solution in that case would be for us to somehow take out the leaders while, well, our whatever forces we bring take out the main riffraff, as you put it.
Indeed, but taking out the Frostfist, it's not that simple. We have seen him for ourselves, and his armor is indeed legendary.
I do recall you promised him a duel.
Yes, that is true.
Do you believe you could win such a duel by yourself?
I am not sure.
And perhaps a duel with a legendary bandit leader might help your reputation too.
And he generally brought his nephews along, so it's only fair you bring your companions.
Indeed.
If we went there and were to contact him in such a way, that would, however, allow them to gather their troops and prepare for a battle rather than a surprise attack. Regardless, we should not linger too long here. Perhaps setting out for Newport might bring new information as to the situation.
Perhaps.
There is a bit of way there, and I can't imagine that the information available here is as thorough as the information in Newport.
Yes, we should indeed speak with perhaps the governor and Lord Raptus when we arrive for further information.
I'm sure they'll be interested in our progress as well.
Yes.
Perhaps they would have something to offer in aid in fighting the Frostfist. We do have a bit of leeway with the Archmage, after all. 2 6s.
Indeed so. We'll just have to see.
Okay. You and your army groups which do cause some minor disturbances in access, but not overly much. The reasoning behind that there are 13 arenas within Axis, I'm not making that up. It's in the book. It's 13 ages. Of course there's fucking 13 arenas, right? And as it turns out, people are highly used to mercenary companies and armies marching through the capital. Reaching the one of the many harbors will put you in contact with an aged gentleman, one who probably has more years behind him than ahead of him, by the name of Morgan Mulrian. He is a noble lord, and he has been called out of his semi-retirement, in effect, to lead these several vessels for you. He expresses a bit of concern. So our first mission is a transport one. We're going to be loading these to probably over maximum capacity, but so long as we don't get into any trouble or encounter any too severe of a storm, we should be all right.
We should perhaps stick to the coast as close as possible.
That is one possible idea, Paladin, but I would suggest heading mostly straight there. If time is of the essence, we don't have time to hug the coast.
I do not personally have any knowledge of ship warfare or ship tactics. I would defer to Lord Morgan or Lord Mulrian for his with his expertise as to what would be best.
We can follow the coast if should you see fit, but if you're looking to perhaps lift the siege of Kavanaugh, then you're wanting to get there as soon as possible.
That is indeed true. But if we do run into any trouble, then
It has to be more than our 2 units of battle mages can handle from a range. I do not believe that they would simply stand there and wait for the ship to collapse.
Indeed not. This is a unique circumstance where I'm not just hauling soldiers around. We would have to face a very determined foe on the seas, indeed. Unless you've made any enemies of dragons lately.
Well...
Not
So-
enough, if you ask me.
Regardless, the hastier we move, the less chance there is of problems. Or at
Yes.
least the more time we'll have to deal with them.
Lord Inator and Lord Langsam, who have taken to bickering with each other, will also break their bickering long enough for Lord Inator to suggest, I'm sure the clerics and Langsam's goons can man the oars to ensure that we retain maximum speed. As for those cultivated individuals I brought along from Newport, we can conjure up air storms, air elementals to push the sails and ensure that we travel as quickly as possible. Langsam says, why don't you do that? You're the one with the bigger arms. My skilled individuals from Horizon can do just the same, if not better, than yours. Old man, what did you say to me? Yes, both the mage groups can expend a bit of their power and pretty much cultivate that into wind and push the ships along even fully burdened as they are at maximum speed without having to wait for things like wind.
might
Well.
be something we want to use.
Seems like we want to expend Maxim a little more then. For him to do that then, since Enitor would have knowledge of the region of near Kavanaugh. He's probably been there before and done much with the wards there and would have more concrete battle knowledge for that situation. Having his people well rested would probably be the best cause, while Maxim here is perhaps very well trained with the higher arts of Horizon.
That does sound good, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll use Maxim then, and we'll head straight towards Newport, I
Okay.
guess.
There is some fanfare as the warship group leaves Axis, heading east with all due haste for the distant city of Newport, which even on the once calm Midland Sea would take some time. But now, what with the sea becoming unstable and the Blessed Emperor's ritual fraying at the edges to allow monsters and storms through. It's gotten worse. That being said, if there is any place to still travel, it would be on the western coast of the Midland Sea, where the magic is still the strongest. The route that you folks take over the days is mostly direct. The only typical deviation that transpires is to steer clear from Necropolis. That being said, as the group is doing so, one of the watchmen, and we're just going to have to pretend that there's no nautical terms in the Dragon Empire, because I am not a boatsman, will call out a warning, and I don't think any of you particularly are either.
Not in English.
A warning to Lord Mulrian that there is sights on to the left of the ship. Looking out with his far eyes telescope fancy Madoodad jigger, he'll call out, "Bergship Raiders!" And he'll actually allow you all a look while he explains. There's 4 of these individuals, and when I say individuals, they are icebergs. Icebergs with sails. And they are heading northwest. So they're actually heading away from your group. Perhaps they may have turned to encounter you, but you folks are just traveling too damn fast. As it turns out, frost giant pirates do exist on the Midland Sea, and they've increased in numbers over the past several months since it got colder around here. They have the arcane what's-it-evers to actually create a ship which exists as an iceberg. They load it full of winter beasts and whatever mercenaries they bring along and pirate the waters.
Perhaps something to deal with at some point when we have a few more ships.
Perhaps, but, I don't know that many people who've taken on a Bergship Raider and lived, and I've not seen that many traveling together before. That would certainly mean there's at least 4 frost giants. 1 there per iceberg.
How do you fight an iceberg?
You, ideally, my boy, you would melt it. But,
Yes. That would take a long time, though.
You would really hope you have some wizards around to throw fireballs or something, or, lots of archers, or outrun it. Because, my boy, I assure you, if they could catch us, they could easily ram these laden warships, and I don't think your mages would be able to melt them in time.
Yes.
They have quite a number of hooks, these Bergship Raiders, to latch onto smaller vessels once they've rammed them, to ensure that none of their prizes can escape. It is good we are traveling this fast.
Indeed so. Phew. It's a good thing they didn't know we were coming.
Yes, but they are heading northwest, whereas you folks are heading southwest. And they cannot catch you at your speed. So, you're able to continue about the rest of your journey. Giving some small berth to Omen. Bye, Santa Cora. And, week's time, maybe 10 days at most, you arrive in Newport. The city looks significantly better than when you last saw it several months ago, which isn't to say that it hasn't incurred some damage from food riots, but as it turns out, the food that you commissioned, that you ordered from Axis, has actually already arrived. And the people are happy again! Yay!
We should have put like a little piece of paper with every package of food where it says, from Geráck, Zold. People of Newport. This cheese wheel.
The people of
single
Newport do have a favorable attitude towards Geráck Zold already, based on the charity work that he's done in the past.
But it'll be even more favorable.
Yes, you'll also meet up with the Imperial Garrison that is no longer needed here to police Newport, led by a man named Marcus Sten. As for information, I can go ahead and give you some more on the situation around ye old Kavanaugh. if you will transition yourselves to the Kavanaugh the Frostfist Siege map that I've made available, I'll go ahead and basically from the scouts that are in the area, and there's some Imperial scouts in the region that have fed back some information, and Lord Teraptus has had a few communiques through messages with a wizard in the city of Kavanaugh. I can explain a bit. So the approach, Kavanaugh is primarily like a border fortress. It's there to protect against barbarians who might come in through the south. It's also to protect against druids who might want to head northwest, or northeast, excuse me. It protects the mines because to the north and northeastern edges of Kavanaugh are steep hills that have mines of coal and ore, other sort of essentials to keep the keep houses warm and the war efforts flowing. As such, the road that leads to Kavanaugh is rather awkward in shape. You have to go sort of like in a diagonal and wrap around to approach Kavanaugh from the east. As such, the road to Newport does end up going up a steep incline before you reach the singular city gate. Now, the Frostfist has taken his siege towers, and, basically the few frost giants that they have, they're like throwing have boulders, and they're just hurling these things at the walls. The people of Kavanaugh do have some horsemen in the area who basically patrol around for bandits, but they've pretty much stayed sealed up inside the city. And the city's maybe got another month before basically it just surrenders due to a lack of food. There are some minor scouts the Frostfist has sent out to ensure that no one comes up behind him, but the gnolls, even a few of them who are riding wargs, are slackers. And they do not think at all that anyone's going to dare approach this army. Look at the fucking Frostfist! He's fucking terrifying! So, it wouldn't be that challenging to sneak up along the road and attack this mass of disorganized bandits, which includes bugbears, and half-orcs, and gnolls, and ogres, and trolls, and the deadly troll archers. Trolls, in general, are usually frightening for people, due to their immense regenerative capabilities.
Mages.
The mages would have to get close. They're not really high level enough to throw around fireballs. They have, like, burning hands and shit like that they can, like, throw them. They even have to get nearby, too. But yes, there's arrows doused in oil and then lit alight. The trolls can be frightened off, or at least, realize that they can be killed. The most terrifying prospect, though, would be in the center of the encampment, where there is a massive pavilion, which is actually shielded by ice energy. The folks around Newport tried sending in some assassins to perhaps take out one of the giants, perhaps even the Frostfist himself, while they were in gentle repose, and that went horribly. They haven't heard back from them since. Other than screams. Yes, the Shadowcaster lurks there around the pavilion, and there's a total of 4 frost giants.
Right.
They breed like rats.
Him and his brothers.
So you'll probably get better information when you get closer. But certainly the groups that you have with you already do have their opinions. Lord Enitor says,
well, why don't we try and lead them into a ruse of sorts? We can contact the mayor of Kavanaugh and have them open the gates and pretend as if the city itself has surrendered. The army will become divided. The cretins, the ruffians, will stream into the city, where the garrison and the horsemen will begin to cut them down in the streets, while we attack from behind. There's a pincer attack. They're split on 2 fronts.
Lord Langsam says,
That is absurd, Enitor. Can you imagine the loss of life that would happen in Kavanaugh? The gnolls and bugbears would rampage through the city before we could kill them. They would flee into homes. Goblins would hide in cabinets. It's a staggering cost to even suggest that.
And Lord Enitor counters with,
It is for the greater good. Those people are not going to be responsible for defending the entire Dragon Empire, just one little piece of it. whereas we are going to be sailed hitherto across the damn thing to fight undead, Sahagwin, demons, barbarians, you name it, we're going to have to confront it, you little slimy gnome.
Alessa counters with, well, how about this? We've mentioned before about the Frostfist honor. There might be a way in which we could completely isolate this with no further blood loss. If you could, say, challenge him to a singular duel, or perhaps his generals versus our leaders, then that could completely chase him off. And Langston says,
No, that won't work either. Who would be so foolish as to challenge a frost giant warlord to single combat? You?
Alessa shakes her head. And the Marcus then says, My lords, we people are bred for this. You should lead from the back and direct us so, and we can crush these bandits beneath our swords and spears. And all of the others look at him like he's fucking stupid, because he's basically advocating that you folks just lead from the back. Yes. Lord Inator wants a ruse through which the city gates are opened, and bandits go pouring into the city, which will split them up and confuse them, but which will most likely result in a greater loss of life. On the flip side, those won't be all your army's losses. You'd still lose one unit, but the horsemen inside Kavanaugh, they're dead, and a great portion of the city would be dead too. Alternatively, you could follow Langston's idea. Langston does suggest that instead you, this group here, like all of the army units, attack the Frostfist, and while the army is swerving around to deal with that, the city gates open and the horsemen go riding out. This gets the horsemen out into the open. It enables the horsemen to cut down anyone who retreats, which would basically prevent any bandits from fleeing at all, except for the Frostfist and his family, because they're frost giants and they can stride down the steep hill that horses can't go down without breaking their necks. Everyone else would be screwed. But the consequences of that would be that you would be leading the frontal charge, and you might be looking at losing more than just one unit. Alessa likes the idea of no army units being lost at all, and that either a single individual among you, or the entire group challenge the Frostfist singularly, or in a group to combat, to determine the fate of Kavanaugh. With you folks ultimately winning that, of course. But if you lose, I mean, you won't lose. And Marcus then wants to protect the people who are going to be paying him, and wants you folks to lead from the back.
Well, if we were to die in a duel, our forces could still fulfill one of the other plans.
Yes.
They would be disheartened,
The
though.
people would like them.
dying, but yeah.
Alternatively, you can appoint a leader and have them go to Kavanaugh themselves to resolve the situation.
And then never come back.
Yeah, you end it all. You deal with the Frostfist. You challenge him to do that.
That's not his idea. He's certainly not going to implement that.
Then we go there, and all our people join the enemy because they got defeated, and they've started a new bandit frost giant nation.
Yes, and you folks appointing a leader would effectively be advocating their plan. Either Lord Inator's trap maneuver, which sacrifices parts of the entire city, Langston's maneuver of taking the brunt and having the horsemen come out for a pincer, which sacrifices your army.
I do like that.
Alessa's idea, which does require you folks to come along, of challenging them to personal combat. Or Marcus Stin's idea of you also, I mean, you don't even have to come along for that, just leading from the back.
You know, Aurelia would argue that Anatus' plan is excellent, because once the world inevitably descends into chaos, these people will be happy that they've already had some combat experience.
That is an absolutely astute opinion, Aurelia. I agree wholeheartedly.
You can't be serious, you old coot.
Watch your tongue, gnome. I will end
Would
you.
there be any possibility, perhaps, of sending some of the mages into the city to assist the people there, if they were to open these gates so that the people would not potentially be slaughtered.
Both Inator and Langsam shake their heads. There's only the gate in order to defend itself against bandits and druids. Only the city walls only have one entrance, and it's basically directed right in front of the Frostfist army. If they were to open the gates, the mages would somehow have to sneak past the army. Alternatively, you could give them ropes and have them fucking rappel up the city walls.
Probably not the best mages.
No, mages
if
not
we
really
had
good at
rangers or druids, perhaps.
that. That is definitely not a thing mages can do. Not really a thing that anyone in your group does.
So, a bit of a question, I suppose. We have these 6s we've earned with the Archmage. Can they be used for other things than simply, as currency?
No, those are just for, quest things. It's your personal icon relationship dice that you can roll to achieve things that are beyond what's on the tactical map.
Right. Well, this is troublesome.
Indeed so. I mean...
I have a 5 with the 3 I still haven't used, but we're not really fighting the 3 a whole lot.
I don't think it'll be very useful.
The Frostfist has already proven that he's not a fan of the 3 either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use it to befriend him. We don't like the 3. We'll ferry your army to Dragonhall if you'll just stop this.
Well, Geráck, if you or we were to... what's the word? To engage in honorable combat with the Frostfist, then surely that would mean that anyone who has called you a failure would be wrong, right?